And another big news is the Tupac Shakur murder case now heads to jury trial. Yes, you heard it. Now, the defendant has accused in the killing of rapper Tupac Shakur is heading to trial, bringing renewed attention to one of the most famous unresolved murders in music history. Now, prosecutors must prove their case decades after the shooting, relying heavily on historical evidence and statements. Now, this Tupac Shakur murder trial begins nearly 30 years after his death, and this jury selection will begin in Las Vegas for the murder trial of Dwayne Kifty Davis. He's the only person ever charged in connection with the 1996 killing of rapper Tupac Shakur, and prosecutors allege that Davis organized the retaliatory attacks and supplied the gun, although they do not claim that he fired the fatal shot. Now, Davis has pleaded not guilty and is presumed innocent until prosecutors prove charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, Dwayne Davis is 63 years old. He faces one count of murder with a deadly weapon intended to promote or assist a criminal gang. David has pleaded not guilty, and jury selection begins on August 10th in Las Vegas. Now, the trial is expected to last approximately 4 to 5 weeks, and Davis could face life imprisonment without parole if convicted. Now, prosecutors allege Davis was inside the white Cadillac involved in the shooting. They say he organized the attack and provided a firearm to the vehicle's occupants. Now, the prosecutor does not allege that Davis personally shot Tupac Shakur. Nevada law allows someone accused of enabling or directing a killing to be charged with murder, even if that person did not pull the trigger. In Davis's interviews, recorded statements, and in the 2019 memoir, are expected to form a major part of the prosecutor's case. The defense says Davis exaggerated or fabricated his accounts of publicity and financial gains. So now this is very significant as this took place in 1996, where you had Tupac Shakur at the height of his career, rapper. He attended the Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas on September 7th, 1996. After the fight, Shakur, Death Row Records co-founder Marion Suge Knight, and members of their entourage became involved in an assault on Orlando Anderson inside the casino. Now, Anderson was Davis' nephew and was associated with Southside Compton Crips. This became an East Coast, West Coast rivalry, if you recall at the time. So later that night, Tupac Shakur was riding in a BMW driven by Knight when a white Cadillac pulled alongside them near the Flamingo Road and Colville Lane. Someone inside the Cadillac opened fire. Now, Shakur was struck 4 times. He died in the hospital 6 days later at the age of 25, and Suge Knight was wounded but survived. Now, the prosecution's theory is that they allege Davis, who sought revenge for the assault on his nephew, helped obtain the white Cadillac, organized the occupants involved in the attack, supplied the firearms used in the shooting, sat inside the vehicle when the shooting occurred, and later described his involvement in the interviews and his memoir. Now, authorities have not definitively identified the gunman in court, but other men alleged to have been inside the Cadillac are now dead. So this leaves Davis as the main person. Now, the prosecution's case is expected to rely heavily on Davis's own words. And over several years, now we're talking about 30 years, Davis participated in interviews, documentaries, as well as public discussions about Shakur's killing and his 2019 memoir, Compton Streets Legend. He described being inside the Cadillac and has now discussed how the gun moved among its occupants in the Cadillac. Now, investigators renewed their examination of the case after those public statements essentially created a wave of taking a look at the case one more time. And Davis was arrested in September of 2023 following a search of his wife's home in Henderson, Nevada. Now, prosecutors may also present recorded police and FBI interviews, Davis's memoirs, as well as media appearances, as well as witnesses who saw Tupac Shakur shortly before the shooting. Now, the testimony concerning the MGM Grand confrontation that they have records of from 30 years ago, and evidence concerning the alleged gang retaliation motives between East Coast and West Coast. Now, this historic investigation material that was collected over 3 decades is significant because this was one of the biggest unresolved murder cases in music history. Now, Davis's lawyers, when it comes to the defense position, are expected to argue that his public accounts were exaggerated or fictionalized, that he made sensational claims to sell books and attract media attention, and that there's no murder weapon and the vehicle or forensic evidence directly connecting him to the shooting. So when it comes to a criminal case where you have to prove without a reasonable doubt, well, this is creating a lot of doubt because he's not linked to any of those. Now, decades old witnesses' memories may also be unreliable when it comes to this jury trial. And some of his statements were made under an earlier cooperation agreement with law enforcement. Now, the prosecution cannot prove that he planned or assisted the killing beyond a reasonable doubt, which is what you need to convict when it comes to a criminal case. Now, the court has allowed some of Davis's previous statements to be introduced, but when it comes to jurors, well, they'll determine how much weight they actually deserve. So when it comes to possible witnesses, there's approximately 35 to 45 witnesses that could be called. The potential list reportedly includes members of Tupac Shakur's family, people who saw Tupac Shakur before the shooting, and investigators involved in the original and renewed cases, as well as individuals familiar with the gang and music industry conflicts surrounding the killing. Now, former Las Vegas mayor and criminal defense lawyer Oscar Goodman will also be part of the evidence. Now, Suge Knight, who was seated beside Tupac Shakur during the shooting, has publicly indicated that he does not want to testify and is not currently expected to appear. But there are speculations has also surrounded Sean Diddy Combs, but he is not reported to be on witness list and has not been charged in connection with Tupac Shakur's death. This is significant, and this is, of course, a developing story, and we'll bring you the latest as it gets revealed.